Many terrifying encounters don't require monsters, darkness, or things that go bump in the night. Some stories only need a single sentence from a child to freeze your blood. It was Ee. I saw her. It was Ee. To evaluate this claim, we have to look at the psychological baseline. Imaginary friends are a standard part of early childhood development, mundane inventions that parents typically dismiss as a passing phase. But my sister's companion was an outlier. She described an older woman with a specific, non-childlike name, Ee. The interactions lasted for years, until at age 4, the friendship abruptly ceased. The name Ee vanished from her vocabulary. While our family assumed the phase had simply ended, the entity remained in a dormant state within the home, waiting for a catalyst to reemerge. 6 years later, our grandfather was hospitalized in critical condition. My parents rushed to the nursing home, leaving us behind. We were entirely alone in the house during a period of high emotional stress and medical uncertainty. The quiet was broken when a radio in our bedroom activated on its own. The volume spiked to its maximum setting. The device followed a mechanical pattern. The audio peaked, dropped to 0, and the unit clicked off. This sequence repeated 3 times. I found my sister in the middle of the room, sitting in a state of frozen, catatonic shock. The nature of the event suggested more than a malfunction. It was an intelligent, deliberate pattern manipulating the physical room. I attempted to troubleshoot the disturbance by looking for a power source to disconnect. The radio was entirely disconnected. No power cord was attached, and the battery carriage was empty. There was no physical mechanism to provide the energy required for a high-volume, repetitive broadcast from a dead object. My sister identified the source of the manipulation immediately, naming Ee as the figure she had just seen. Moments later, my mother called, confirming that our grandfather had passed away at that exact time. The data shows a perfect synchronization between the impossible energy spike in the radio and the moment my grandfather's life ended. We initially tried to categorize the event as a byproduct of collective grief and strange timing. But at the funeral, a distant relative presented a piece of physical evidence she had discovered among old belongings. It was a faded, vintage wedding photograph. Without prompting, my sister pointed to the woman in the photograph and identified her as Ee. The woman was our biological grandmother, who had died decades before we were born. Our step-grandmother had previously removed every photograph and trace of her from the house, leaving no visual record of her existence. My sister possessed accurate visual knowledge of a face that had been systematically scrubbed from her reality, identifying a relative she had never seen. This evidence recontextualizes Ee as an intentional, protective presence within the home. The grandmother remained in the house she once occupied, surfacing as an imaginary companion when her grandchildren arrived, and staying through their childhood. The radio anomaly served as a final communication, a deliberate signal sent on the night her husband finally joined her. These anomalies suggest that the most persistent traces of the past aren't found in hauntings, but in the enduring connection to a family